students, welcome back. Today we are going to discuss few concepts from sexual reproduction in flowering plants. The concepts are self-incompatibility, pollen-pistil interaction, pollen germination, artificial hybridization, and double fertilization. Self-incompatibility. Self-incompatibility we will discuss under outbreeding devices in previous part. This self-incompatibility is also called self-sterility or intraspecific incompatibility. Self-incompatibility is a genetic mechanism that prevents self-pollen from fertilizing the ovules by inhibiting pollen grain germination or pollen tube growth in the pistil. Recognition of self-pollen is based on genes for self-incompatibility called S gene. There can be multiple of alleles of an S gene. Then what is the meaning of these alleles? Alleles are pairs of genes on a chromosome that determine the hereditary characteristics. These genes code for sRNAs. The full form of this sRNAs, S locus ribonuclease. sRNAs are expressed in the stigma, style, and ovary and concentrate in the stylar extracellular matrix and interact with the pollen tube. The recognition factor on the pollen are SLF, S locus F box, the full form of this factor. So these SLF factors are present on the pollen. They are considered as recognition factors. They can recognize these sRNAs in the stylar extracellular matrix where the pollen tube is interact. If the S alleles of the pollen match those in stylar extracellular matrix, the pollen is rejected. The S alleles of pollen match the S alleles in stylar extracellular matrix, then the pollen is rejected for germination. If the S alleles are different, then the pollen tubes continue to grow and fertilize the ovule. Please remember these 2 points to understand the further concept in self-incompatibility. Depending on species, self-recognition blocks pollen tube growth by one of the two molecular mechanism. So what are that two molecular mechanisms to block the pollen tube growth of self? First one, gametophytic self-incompatibility. In short form, it is called GSI. Second mechanism, sporophytic self-incompatibility, SSI. Let's see the first one, gametophytic self-incompatibility. In gametophytic self-incompatibility, the S allele in the pollen genome regulates the blocking of fertilization. For example, an S1 pollen grain from an S1 S2 parental sporophyte will fail to fertilize egg of an S1 S2 flower, but it will fertilize an S2 S3 flower. So once clearly observe this point, an S1 pollen grain. Pollen grain is a haploid from an S1 S2 parental sporophyte. So here parental sporophyte nothing but anther. It is a diploid condition. From that anther sporophytic tissue produces the pollen grain. So that pollen grain consists this S1 gene. So will fail to fertilize egg of an S1 S2 flower because S1 and S1 both are matches. That means the egg, the stylar region, style or region, style is the diploid condition. So diploid condition having both S1 and S2. So that's why the pollen grain consists S1 gene. It matches the S1 gene of the stylar region. So that's why it is blocks the pollen germination, but will fertilize an S2 S3 flower because here pollen grain consists S1 gene, but here stylar region does not consist that S1 gene. That's why pollen grain will germinate and develops the pollen tube. This type of gametophytic self-incompatibility present in Liliaceae, Poaceae, Solanaceae family. Sporophytic self-incompatibility. In this system, pollens of a plant behave similarly. Pollens of a plant behave similarly, irrespective of S allele they carry. For example, a plant carrying S1, S2 alleles. A plant carrying, that is diploid. The pollen carrying S1 or S2 alleles or maybe gene. So pollen is haploid. That means the pollen grain may receive S1 gene or maybe S2 gene. So pollen may behave as S1 if S1 is dominant. If S1 gene is a dominant character, the pollen behave as a S1. If pollen is behave as S2, if S2 gene is a dominant. Now apply that. The presence of even one of the alleles of the stylar tissue in sporophytic tissue of parent plant make all the pollen of that plant non-functional. So in this two, any one of gene is present and it makes all the pollen non-functional. Let's see the examples of that combinations. S1 S2 plant produces pollens S1 or S2 are completely incompatible to plant carrying S1 S2 S1 S4 S1 S5 or S2 S3 S2 S4 S2 S5 diploid conditions. So here pollen consists S1 gene. It does not germinate on the stigma of plant carrying S1 S2 S1 S4 S1 S5 because in these S1 and pollen gene S1 is matches and it prevent the germination of pollen grain. If pollen grain concedes S2 gene, then it is incompatible to the plant carrying S2S3, S2S4, S2S5, because here S2 and the pollen grain S2 gene are matched and it is not suitable for the germination. But these pollen grains with either S1 or maybe S2 are 100% compatible right pollen grain for a plant carrying S3, S4 or maybe S3, S5, because these are different from the genes present in the pollen and it supports the germination of pollen grain. So sporophytic self incompatibility we can observe in Brassicaceae, Asteraceae families. Pollen pistil interaction. It can be defined as all the events from pollen deposition on the stigma until pollen tubes enter the ovule are together referred to as pollen pistil interaction. Pollination simply means the transfer of the pollen to the stigma of a flower. It does not guarantee the transfer of right type or compatible pollen to the stigma. There is no guarantee to transfer always right pollen to the stigma. Often the pollen of wrong type, incompatible, can also land on the stigma. Pollen pistil interaction is very essential for the pistil to accept the pollen. Pistil has the ability to recognize right type compatible pollen. If the compatible pollen falls on the pistil, pistil accepts the pollen and promotes the post fertilization events. If incompatible pollen means wrong pollen falls on the pistil rejects the pollen and prevents pollen germination or growth of pollen tube. Pollen pistil interaction is due to the chemical components of the pollen interacting with that of the pistil. It is a chemical component interaction between the pollen grain and the pistil. Pollen germination. The main events that lead to pollen germination are if stigma is receptive or mature and the pollen landed on its compatible, then the pollen begins to germinate. The intine, along with its contents, emerges out from the germ pores as a short cytoplasmic outgrowth called germ tube and grows in the form of pollen tube. Let's see the photograph. So here it is a pollen grain. Pollen grain covers with a two layers. Outer one is axine and inner one is intine. This axine leaves some gaps or axine is absent in a particular areas. That regions are called as the germ pores. So through the germ pores, the intine develops as a cytoplasmic outgrowth called as germ tube, and when it is elongated, then it is called as the pollen tube. The pollen tube is directed towards the ovary by chemicals called calcium boron inositol sugar complex, and hence is called positively chemotrophic and negatively aerotrophic. Positively chemotrophic, that means pollen tube move towards the chemical interaction, that's why it is considered as positively chemotropic. And negatively aerotropic, pollen tubes are moving towards the pistil and away from the air atmosphere, it going into the style, so that's why negatively aerotropic. So once if you recollect from the first PUC, auxins, phytohormone, auxins promote the or supports the growth of roots as well as stem. So the roots are positively geotropic and negatively phototrophic. That means most of the plants, the roots are growing towards the gravity, towards the soil. That's why they are positively geotrophic. Shoot system is positively phototrophic and negatively geotrophic. That means they grow against the gravity and they grow towards the light, phototrophic, positively phototrophic. So here also the wording is same. Positively chemotrophic, the pollen tube move towards the chemical interaction, and the same time the pollen tube is moving towards the style away from the air atmosphere, that's why negatively aerotropic. The sucrose solution secreted by epidermal cells of the stigma act as the stimulus of this interaction of the chemicals. The pollen tube produce certain enzymes that digest the tissues of the stigma and style and enables the passage of pollen tube to reach the ovule. So the enzymatic reaction digest the cells in the stigma and style to allow the movement of pollen tube towards the ovule. In some plants, pollen grains are shed at two-celled condition. The two cells are vegetative cell or tube cell and generative cell. In such plants, generative cell divides and forms the two male gametes during the growth of pollen tube in the stigma. In some plants, pollen grains are shed at three-celled condition. The three cells are vegetative cell and two male gametes, total three cells. In such plants, pollen tube carry the two male gametes from the beginning. In first here, in this two-celled condition, male gametes are formed during growth of pollen tube. But in three-celled condition, from the beginning itself, pollen tube carry the two male gametes. Pollen tube grows and may enter the ovule by any one of the following routes. Number 1, porogamy. The pollen tube enters the ovule through micropyle. Micropyle is a opening left by the integuments. This porogamy is a most common type of entry of pollen tube into the ovule. It can represent like this. So the pollen tube enters through micropyle region. And the second route, chalazogamy. The pollen tube enters the ovule through chalaza, basal part of the ovule. It is less common and it is observed in Casuarina. We can observe the diagram like this. So the pollen tube enters through this chalazial region, then chalazogamy. And one more type, that is mesogamy. The pollen tube enters the ovule through its middle part, that is either through integuments that we can observe in cucurbita or through funicle stalk of the ovule. It can observe in Pistacia that we can observe here in this photograph. So these are the integuments, the coverings of the ovule. If pollen tube enters through these integuments, then it is called as mesogamy, or here it is a funicle region. This is the funicle region. If it is entered through the funicle region, then it is also called as mesogamy. So if pollen tube enters the ovule through either integuments or through funicle, are called as the mesogamy. If it is enters through chalazogamy. If it is entered through micropyle opening or porogamy. Pollen tube enters into one of the synerges through the filiform apparatus. After entering one of the synerges, the pollen tube releases the two male gametes into the cytoplasm of synerges. Let's see the diagrams. So many pollen tubes are grown on the stigma, but finally one pollen tube grows towards the stylar region, and this pollen tube enters, here it is enters through micropyle region, porogamy, and it enters into the synerges through filiform apparatus observed in enlarged photograph. So this is the egg apparatus region, egg apparatus, egg cell as well as synerges. So the pollen tube opens into the synerge through the filiform apparatus. The basal region wall of synerge consists a finger-like projections called as filiform apparatus. This filiform apparatus helpful for absorption of nutrients from the nucellus and also helpful for guiding the pollen tube to enter into the ovule. So now it is entered into the synerges, and the pollen tube carrying the two male gametes, the two male gametes are released into the synerges. Let's see the another diagram. So in the two male gametes are released into the synerge. After that the synerge is degenerates. One of the male gamete, after degeneration of the synerge, in these two male gametes, one of the male gamete fuses with the egg cell nucleus to form the diploid zygote, and the other male gamete fuses with the diploid secondary nucleus. Here this polar nuclei form as a central cell. At the beginning of the fertilization, these two polar nuclei are fused together to form diploid secondary nucleus. So male gamete is haploid. Now this male gamete fuses with this secondary nucleus, it is diploid, and male gamete is haploid, 1n, and secondary nucleus is diploid, 2n plus 1n, to form a triploid, 3n, primary endosperm nucleus. It finally develops as a endosperm. So let's observe this flow chart what we discussed in previous points. So pollen grain, so on germination it develops the pollen tube. Pollen tube carries two nucleus, that means two cells, tube nucleus in tube cell, generative nucleus in generative cell. This generative nucleus, if it is two cell stage, during development of pollen tube, This generative nucleus undergoes mitosis division to form two male gametes. If it is three-celled stage, the generative cell before forming the pollen tube itself, generative cell produce the two male gametes. So now the pollen tube enters into the ovule through synerges, and one of the male gamete fuses with the egg cell to form diploid zygote, and it develops as a embryo. And another male gamete fuses with the secondary nucleus to form triploid endosperm nucleus. This will develop as a endosperm. The knowledge of pollen pistil interaction helps the botanists in manipulating incompatibility pollination to get desired hybrids. Artificial hybridization. So definition of artificial hybridization: the crossing of different species to combine desirable characters to produce commercially superior varieties is called artificial hybridization. This artificial hybridization is achieved by emasculation and bagging. Emasculation. What is meant by emasculation? It refers to the removal of anthers from the flower buds before the anther dehiscence, before the anther maturity. The removal of anthers from a flower is called emasculation. So this is the photograph too. So in this flower, we need to remove the anthers except pistil. Pistil should be present in the flower. Anthers should be removed. Emasculation ensures that pollen grains from the same flower will not fall on the stigma of the same flower. That means emasculation prevents the self-pollination. So in artificial hybridization, emasculation is required to prevent self-pollination. To avoid that self-pollination, we need to remove anthers before its maturity. Bagging. The emasculated flower is now covered with a transparent bag of suitable size, generally made of butter paper, and date and time of emasculation is marked on it. This is called bagging. So after removing the anthers, the pistil along with the flower should be bagged with a butter paper. On that, we need to mention the date and time when we did that emasculation. So here it is representation of the diagram. So after removing the anthers, that flower should be covered like this. We should not detach the flower. Bagging prevents the contamination of its stigma with unwanted pollen. So why bagging is required in artificial hybridization? This bagging prevents the contamination of stigma of this pistil with unwanted pollen. When the stigma of bagged flower attains receptivity, maturity, matured pollen collected from the anthers are dusted on the stigma. In this bagged flower, if stigma attains maturity, we need to collect the matured pollen. That pollen should be dusted onto this stigma. After that, the flowers are rebagged and the fruits allowed to develop. So after pollination, again we need to rebagged that pollinated flower till development of fruit. In case of plants producing bisexual flowers means flowers consists both male and reproductive sex organs. So in such flowers, emasculation and bagging techniques are adapted. Both emasculation and bagging should be applied in the bisexual flowers. In case of plants producing unisexual flowers, if you conducting artificial hybridization in unisexual flowers, there is no need of emasculation. Only the female flower buds are bagged before the flowers open. So because here the stigma only present, flowers with only female reproductive part are called as the pistillate flowers. That pistillate flower should be bagged before flower opens. If it is bisexual flower, emasculation is required. Emasculation is nothing but removal of anthers. So unisexual flower does not consist the anthers. It consists only female part that should be bagged. Emasculation does not required. Double fertilization. After entering one of the synergies, the two male gametes are released into the cytoplasm of the synergy. One of the male gamete fuses with the egg nucleus. This is known as syngamy and produces zygote. Other male gamete fuses with diploid secondary nucleus and forms a triploid primary endosperm nucleus. As it involves the fusion of three haploid nuclei, it is known as triple fusion. Once follow this point. Diploid secondary nucleus. Secondary nucleus is formed by fusion of two polar nuclei. Each polar nuclei is haploid, two nuclei. With this secondary nucleus, another haploid male gamete, it is also a nucleus, fuses with this secondary nucleus. Total 3 nuclei are fuses, hence it is called as triple fusion. So the formation of this primary endosperm nucleus is a triple fusion. It is a result of triple fusion. Fusion of 3 haploid nuclei results the primary endosperm nucleus. Since two sets of fertilization, one set is syngamy, another set is triple fusion. Two sets of fertilization, syngamy and triple fusion, occurs in the embryo sac. It is called double fertilization. So double fertilization simply we can call as syngamy and triple fusion together called as double fertilization. This double fertilization is the unique feature in angiosperms or flowering plants. Thank you. We can discuss few more concepts in the next part.